Hello, um, my name is Alex, or I'm also known as KG, hence the channel name, and welcome to my new channel. As you can probably guess, I plan on playing video games, and saying stuff about them. You know, you've seen it before. For the most part, I probably am going to start with games I played as a young kid, you know, the games I grew up with, and as we go along, maybe I'll go further along in my own history, you know. So, this is Double Dragon. It was for the NES. I think this game was a pretty big deal at the time. I'm not too sure, but I think so. It was probably the first game I remember playing, at least extensively, as a young kid. Let me just adjust a little. So one thing that's kind of interesting here is that in this game, and maybe a few other NES games, the select button is used on the menu screens. And this may seem weird now. I'm not sure actually if the more recent modern consoles use the select button or even have one. But at least for the NES, the select button was used for selecting things on a menu, hence its name, I suppose. Although, after a while, it became used for other things, like using passwords or doing start select, restarts the level or leaves the level or whatever, stuff like that. So let's look at mode B for a little bit. As you can see here, you can't see here, but here you use the directional buttons rather than the select button. And you got a little selection of characters to choose from, unlike in the actual game where you only are one character. Maybe 2 in 2 player mode, I don't remember how that works. So this is nothing like the rest of the game. It's like a one-on-one fighting game, like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat became, I believe, afterward. So the game is not like this, and you also don't usually run into walls, but it is a generic fighting game in some ways. It is a beat 'em up, so having a fighting game inside it isn't that weird. Although, for the most part, except for I believe Abobo, the characters don't look like this. They're smaller because they're, NES sprites for use en masse. You can see here what some of the fighting looks like, although you can't actually do you can't run or run and attack in the normal game. But otherwise, there's a punch and a kick and a jump, so the moves are more or less faithful to the rest of the game. It's just you can't run and attack. Another thing, I guess I forgot to mention this before, the characters you choose from, besides Billy, I believe, are all enemies in the game, including Abobo, who is usually a boss, or sub-boss, or mini-boss, or whatever you want to call it. Beautiful. Wonderful. Anyway, let's get started. So the story of the game, from what you could probably gather, is that the main character's girlfriend, I suppose, got kidnapped by some random thugs. The reason is not indicated, and there's probably some story in the instruction book, but I don't have that. Oh, you can do that, I forgot about that. Yeah, so the game itself is a pretty typical beat-em-up. I'm not sure how common beat-em-ups were back then, but I believe this was based on the arcade game. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the arcade game came first. There are two attacks, or there are two buttons, rather, which if you are familiar with the NES controller, you may have guessed. There's a punch button and a kick button. If you press them both at the same time, you jump. And that's pretty much all you can do. There are some variations of what you can do. Like, you have combos. If you hit someone 4 or 5 times, you do something special at the end. Like that. Although you only get the uppercut and the kick uppercut, whatever that is called, after you get enough points for one of your hearts to level up. You start off with 1, and you can get up to like 5 or 6, maybe even 8, I don't remember. And every time you get a new heart, you get a new ability. You can also interact with certain objects, usually things that the enemy has already dropped. And they pretty much all do the same thing, which is hurt someone. For the most part, kicking does more damage than punching, but items always do more damage than either. Good. There's a little glitch. Very good. That doesn't serve any purpose, and I think you might... Yeah, but nothing else happens there. So, here's another area. Conveniently, your health gets restored when you go to the new area, so that's nice. Also, I like how when they're fighting each other, they like scream at each other. So here's a Bobo, the first boss, I guess. And it's actually possible to like end this fight early by getting him to fall down there. But it's too easy. I mean, if you're good at the game, probably you can do it. There we go.